Chapter 091, Scorpion-level killer, Mr. Shan, we meet again. Startled from his anxious wait for news, Shan looked up. Standing before him was a man he recognized, Larson. The Scorpion-level killer he'd once approached, only to be turned down. "Ah, it's you. What can I do for you?" Shan asked, a flicker of curiosity in his weary eyes. Larson stated it plainly. "I have some availability now. I can take on your commission." A spark ignited in Shan's gaze, but it quickly dimmed, replaced by a bitter smile. "I appreciate it, but I'm afraid my commission has already been accepted." The rules of the blood-pact syndicate were ironclad once a contract was sealed. It couldn't be undone. Disappointment flickered across Larson's face. A red maple native, he was in Haisha visiting friends, a bit of travel on the side. He hadn't intended to work, but Shan's offer, though the pay was meager, had piqued a passing interest. He declined initially, deeming it not worth his time. However, after a few idle days, Larson's fingers itched for action. He'd considered picking up a quick, simple contract nearby and remembered Shan. Hence, this impromptu visit. He hadn't expected someone to beat him to it in a single day. Frustration gnawed at Larson, but he knew the syndicate's code. With a resigned sigh, he headed to the bar and ordered a drink. Barely 2 sips in, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the caller ID. "You, a past client." "Larson," a man's voice echoed from the other end. "Speaking. Mr. Yu, what can I do for you?" Larson responded casually, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "I have a commission I'd like to offer." Larson's interest sharpened. "Let's hear it. I need someone eliminated. The target, the details are being sent to your tablet now." This was off-book. "No confidentiality here." Larson pulled out his tablet. As the file loaded, his eyes snapped up, fixing on Shan across the room. "The commission target." "What do you think?" Yu's voice cut through his thoughts, the muffled sounds of people descending stairs audible in the background. "I'm in," Larson stated flatly. "Excellent. I'll have the advance payment wired to you." Bang! A sudden thud echoed through the phone, followed by the distinct crack of a gunshot. Larson's body tensed. A sniper rifle. Panic erupted on the other end, shouts, screams, chaos. Yu's voice was abruptly silenced. Larson understood instantly. Yu was down, taken out. One shot to drop a target surrounded by a dozen bodyguards. "That's a damn good sniper," Larson muttered, his mind racing. Shan's commission, it had to be the hit on Yu. They were rivals. Shan's waiting. He'll be meeting the shooter soon, Larson realized, a glint of something calculating in his eyes. Using Shan's intel, Harlan had positioned himself hundreds of meters from Yu's compound, selecting a high-rise overlooking the location. Initially, he'd planned to snipe Yu through a window, but his target conveniently emerged from the front door, making the job even easier. Yu was ringed by a dozen bodyguards. A seemingly impenetrable shield. To Harlan, they were mere obstacles. His latest creation, the Shrike Penetrator round, possessed devastating armor penetration against non-metallic targets. The bullet ripped through a bodyguard's torso, its momentum undiminished, and slammed directly into Yu's heart. One shot. Lethal. Assassinating a civilian target was almost insultingly simple. No complications, no surprises. The ensuing chaos would draw the police, but Harlan was already masked, his features shifted by the simulation mask, a perfect disguise for a clean getaway. Untraceable, an escape artist's dream. Back in his room on the 23rd floor of the Vitalia Hotel, Shan, a knot of anxiety twisting in his gut, sprang to his feet as Harlan entered. Relief washed over his face. "It's done." Shan visibly deflated, the tension draining from his shoulders. He glanced at his watch, barely 45 minutes since Harlan had left. Subtracting travel time, the actual hit had taken less than 10 minutes, incredibly fast. "Payment," Harlan prompted, extending a hand. Right. Shan, his face now etched with awe, retrieved a briefcase containing 10 stacks of cash and handed it to Harlan. "Assassination contract," Shan completed. Plus 25,000 XP. Shan departed, his steps lighter, As if a great weight had been lifted, Harlan pressed the service bell, intending to pursue the Rose Armored's bounty. A prickling sensation on the back of his neck made him turn. Someone's watching me. At the bar, a man was indeed observing him with a probing gaze. Harlan didn't recognize him, but the look was undeniably appraising, laced with a hint of challenge. Harlan's eyes narrowed. He was in no mood for games. He locked eyes with the man, projecting a glacial stare, a universal message. "What the hell are you looking at?" Larson froze, a sudden wave of hostile energy washing over him. A primal alarm screamed in his mind danger. He hastily averted his gaze, and the suffocating pressure instantly vanished in those fleeting seconds. Beads of cold sweat had sprung to Larson's brow. Dangerous aura. This guy is trouble. Best left alone. Larson quickly settled his tab and left, eager to put distance between himself and the unsettling newcomer. "Back again so soon," Harlan chuckled to the returning waiter. The waiter, still processing how quickly this newcomer had ascended to official status, could only stammer, "You are now officially a Scorpion-level killer. Higher-tier privileges are now available to you. You'll receive basic VIP treatment at any Vitalia hotel in any city." Harlan cut to the chase. "What's my rank on the dark web killers list?" The waiter gave a wry smile. "Only the very top killers make the rankings. Currently, you're probably somewhere beyond 1,000. He pulled out a tablet, bringing up the killers list. Harlan scanned the names. The top 10 were averaging around level 40. Not exactly apex predators. Only the top 3 seemed truly formidable, approaching the 1.0 version level cap. The list was based on mission history and reputation. Essentially, player activity. Same went for the mercenary list next to it. Power levels on planet Aquamarine were relatively low, in the early stages of public testing. Players rarely encountered level 40-plus individuals. Level 50 and 60 fighters were the planet's apex combatants, typically leaders of major factions, hidden assets. Reclusive figures, or supercriminals operating in the shadows, a separate echelon of power, largely unseen by the general populace and most players, only through missions. Or by becoming exceptionally powerful, would players cross paths with them. These thoughts flickered and faded as Harlan tapped the bounty board, pointing to a specific posting. "I want to take the Rose Armored bounty." "Understood. Processing your request. Please wait." The waiter scribbled on a form, tore off the sheet, rolled it into a cylinder, and placed it into a pneumatic tube behind the counter. The tube hissed as the cylinder was sucked into the network. The cylinder shot through the labyrinthine network, passing countless junctions, occasionally glimpsing other speeding capsules. Moments later, it arrived at its destination, a vast room resembling a call center, filled with rows of desks. Staff sat at computers, processing files, each desk equipped with a pneumatic tube terminal. A black-clad staff member extracted the paper slip, tapped at his keyboard, and rapidly entered the information. Bounty target, Rose Armored Organization, requirement, total elimination of target issuer. Chase Rhodes family location, Sommer Desert issue date, year 685, November 17th, bounty, 3 million Aquamarine credits, difficulty assessment. Hard mission log, 685.11.27, codename Holt, Dark Kier, 685.12.11, codename Bloodhand, Dark Kier, 686.3.10, codename Poison Flower, Dark Freeman. Dark Kier, mission intel update. Rose Armored current strength estimated at 80 to 120 personnel, including 4 supers. Leader King, Esper, Instructor Dorothy. Martial Artist, Instructor Ghost Fox. Martial Artist, Unknown Suspect, Mechanist, Active Area, Sommer Desert, Authorization granted, Mission Log updated. 688.4.1, codename Mr. Black, Scorpion status, pending. Simultaneously, a new mission popped up on Harlan's interface. C-rank mission triggered. Bounty Hunter Rose Armored. In mission brief, the Somme Desert is a haven for various factions, nomad settlements, armed mercenary groups. Why does this desolate region attract so many? Perhaps it's linked to past events. Exploration is advised. Mission objective: eliminate Rose Armored. Time limit: 15 days. Mission reward: 150,000 XP. Special reward: 250,000 XP. Unknown reward. Chapter 092, Pilgrims, I need access to your arms transport plane. Harlan stated his request to Antonov at the Farian outpost. Antonov's eyebrows shot up. We only use those for bulk transactions. Even for a black gold VIP, there are associated costs. Understood. All right. How many personnel are we transporting? Departure time? Just me. Now, Antonov's fleshy face rippled with disbelief, silence hanging heavy before he finally managed. What a waste! The arms transport plane could reach its destination in about a day. Equipped with a rudimentary workshop, Harlan could use the travel time to grind experience points. Manufacturing equipment, no time wasted on transit. One-way fee is 50,000. You're sure about this? Harlan peeled off a stack of bills from the briefcase stuffed with $100 notes and tossed it onto the table. When do we board? 1 hour. Farian leased a runway at Morningstar City Airport, several olive-drab behemoths of transport planes parked on the tarmac. Harlan, gear and materials in hand, boarded one of the aircraft. Soon, the massive frame shuddered to life, engines roaring, the plane accelerating down the runway. Climbing into the sky, once at cruising altitude, he could begin manufacturing. The desert sun blazed, an oppressive heat baking the endless expanse of sand. The yellow dunes shimmered, radiating unbearable heat. 24 figures trudged through the wasteland, their movements sluggish, labored, clad in tattered gray robes. Unwashed for what seemed like an eternity, they exuded a stale, acrid stench. Sweat plastered their clothes to their gaunt frames, lips cracked, eyes sunken. Exhaustion etched into every line of their faces. They swayed with each step, on the verge of collapse. Even the emaciated pack animals they led seemed near their breaking point. The Somme Desert had once been home to a verdant oasis nation, a land of prosperity and peace. But war had shattered it, the oasis obliterated by gunfire and explosions. Swallowed by the surrounding desert, these ragged souls were the remnants of that lost nation. An old legend persisted deep within the Somme Desert, lay the ruins of an ancient civilization. Millions of years old, harboring artifacts capable of controlling the sands themselves. Decades ago, during the war, the Somme Desert had witnessed an anomaly, sand swirling like an ocean current, forming a colossal vortex that swept across the desert, seemingly guided, lasting 7 days before dissipating. Evidence and documentation had vanished with the fall of the oasis nation. But some of the survivors clung to the legend, seeking the mythical artifact, pinning their hopes of restoration on a whispered promise. For years, they had searched. Pilgrims, the nomads of the Somme Desert called these remnants, a mocking epithet for the lost nation's faithful. These 20-odd individuals were the last of the pilgrims. Felonia ruins, the power of magic, it must exist, mumbled the eldest pilgrim, his voice raspy, more to himself than anyone else. Somme Desert. A convoy of vehicles returned to a heavily fortified compound. Dorothy, another dry run, King, leader of Rose Armored, asked, her voice tight with frustration. Searched sectors E4, E5, D4. Still no sign of Felonia, Dorothy's gruff voice rumbled in response. A jagged, centipede-like scar marred her face, making her features even more brutal. Her bare arms, protruding from her tactical vest, were thick with muscle, crisscrossed with faded tattoos, barely visible against her dark skin, their purpose a mystery. Rose Armored was an all-female mercenary outfit, their base deep within the Somme Desert, perpetually searching for Felonia. They had 2 instructors. The other, Ghost Fox, was a petite, pale woman, a master assassin. We clashed with Gordon's people during the search. Wenli and Sisai are dead. The returning mercenaries were battered, their bulletproof vests riddled with holes, shattered ceramic plates exposed. King's eyes hardened. Be more careful on future searches. Chase Rhodes' family. Gordon's backers, they want us gone. Various factions in the Somme Desert were funded by shadowy backers, all vying for Falonia. Skirmishes were commonplace, minor clashes every 3 days. Full-blown battles every 5. Mercenaries who survived in this environment were hardened killers, their hands stained with blood. Harlan felt a jolt as the plane touched down, pressing him against his seat. Moments later, it rolled to a stop. "We've landed," the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Harlan disembarked, stepping into a wave of stifling heat. The landing zone was a medium-sized warehouse complex ringed with razor wire, armed guards patrolling the perimeter. A Farian outpost in the Somme Desert. Global arms dealers like Farian maintained outposts in every region, logistical hubs. After all, local postal services weren't exactly equipped to handle shipments of heavy weaponry. "Welcome to the Somme Desert." Antonov followed him out, his bulky frame straining against his white shirt, the contours of his fleshy form clearly visible. Practically topless. "What are you doing here?" Harlan asked, surprised. The local manager here got caught in a firefight. Poor bastard, caught a stray round to the skull. "So I'm here to sort things out. Besides, it's been a while since I had a little vacation." Harlan nodded, not arguing. "I need intel on the Somme Desert factions. Coordinates, maps, and a desert buggy. I'll have it arranged." The Somme Desert was vast. Driving across it non-stop, even without getting lost, would take 10 days. The featureless terrain made navigation near impossible without coordinates and radar maps. Numerous armed groups were scattered across the wasteland. Harlan couldn't fathom why anyone would fight and die in this desolate place. To find Falonia. "What exactly is Falonia?" Harlan asked, genuinely curious. The name didn't ring any bells, likely a hidden quest missed in his past life. Antonov just chuckled. "Beats me." Harlan detected Antonov's evasiveness. He raised an eyebrow but said nothing, grabbing his gear and heading to the garage to requisition a vehicle, ready to scout Rose Ahmed's base. "Safe travels." Antonov waved a languid hand. The razor wire gates swung open, and Harlan steered the desert buggy out into the scorching heat, using the coordinate radar. Harlan reached Rose Ahmed's compound after a few hours, observing through high-powered binoculars. Rose Ahmed's base was a heavily fortified small fortress, concrete walls topped with barbed wire. A single metal gate as the only entrance. Guard towers stood within the perimeter, sentries constantly scanning the surroundings, offering excellent visibility. Powerful searchlights were also in place, ready for nighttime activation. Harlan concluded that infiltration was impossible without some form of sand-burrowing ability. And Rose Ahmed was an all-female group. Big chests, nice asses. His own ass was decent, but the chest situation, even with the simulation mask, he couldn't convincingly pass as female. Infiltration plan GG. Harlan glanced at the grenade launchers and heavy machine guns mounted on the guard towers, the thick concrete walls. Yeah. Frontal assault plan also GG. Need to draw them out. Ambush tactics. Time to fabricate some new toys. Harlan's gaze sharpened, and he quietly retreated. He returned to the Farian outpost, requesting access to the workshop from Antonov. He had 7 potential points remaining. He upgraded basic electromagnetic principles to level 4 and basic wide area sensing to level 3. Spending 4 points in total. Initiate knowledge fusion. Basic electromagnetic principles LV4, basic energy theory LV3, basic wide area sensing LV3. Cost 15,000 XP. Chapter 093, Setting the Trap, Fusion Successful. You have developed electromagnetic scanning tactical goggles. Oh, Harlan raised an eyebrow. Not what he'd aimed for. Still, useful for a sniper. More precise than thermal imaging, capable of scanning through walls. Mounted on a scope, it would make wall penetration shots incredibly accurate. Let's try again. Initiate knowledge fusion. Basic electromagnetic principles LV4, basic energy theory LV3, basic wide area sensing LV3. Cost 30,000 XP. Fusion successful. You have developed electromagnetic pulse jammer. That's the one. Harlan nodded. The schematic combinations were numerous. The EMP jammer was a common outcome. Several other schematics would have also met his needs, but he'd prepared for a third fusion, so this saved him some experience. The electromagnetic pulse jammer, the infamous EMP, in a desert environment lacking in heavy vehicles, for a sniper, range control was key. An anti-vehicle jammer was essential. Right, he also needed high-yield explosives, landmines, traps. Stroking his chin, a new idea sparked in Harlan's mind. Maybe fusion isn't necessary this time. Let's try self-creation. Players had limited use for the self-creation feature in the past, but he possessed genuine understanding of knowledge, capable of blending theories and principles from various schematics. Creating entirely new designs, he could leverage self-creation to bypass lengthy research and development, potentially unlocking advanced schematics ahead of schedule. The core principle of high-combustion explosives was highly flammable gas. Compressing it into larger containers would amplify the explosive force, rivaling fragmentation mines. For a burst-type landmine, he'd need to incorporate gunpowder and shrapnel. This required a sealed, high-combustion gas ignition system. Harlan considered layering the explosive internally, neutralizing the high-combustion gas with inert gas, sealing it in a separate layer, leaving a mechanism to create a delayed trigger. Time elapsed, the mechanism would activate, releasing the gas into the gunpowder, triggering the explosion. But since he was self-creating, Harlan decided to integrate diverse effects, incorporating the principles of Heimdall rounds. Let's do it. Harlan rapidly refined his concept and began manufacturing. Self-creation required producing a prototype before success could be assessed. Players normally selected a design concept, materials, and tools, then initiated a progress bar. Success determined entirely by RNG. Harlan, however, directly participated in every step of the process, allowing for fine-tuning at any stage, vastly increasing the success rate. Soon, a metallic disc, roughly 30 centimeters in diameter, materialized a landmine. He opened his interface and initiated self-creation evaluation, evaluating schematic self-creation. Evaluation failed. Failed, Harlan frowned. Failure meant the device hadn't achieved the intended effect or had significant flaws. He found a test area to evaluate the prototype's destructive power. He discovered an issue with the three-stage trigger high-combustion gas, gunpowder shrapnel, and poison gas. It exploded, but the yield was far below expectations. He had to revise the design. Gas was incredibly volatile, a single misstep forcing him to start over. He meticulously refined the device, iteration after iteration. The Farian outpost's weapon testing range was soon scorched black, permeated with toxic fumes, forcing even him to retreat to avoid sustained damage. Finally, after the 13th failure, the interface chimed with the long-awaited notification. Evaluation successful. You have developed a self-created schematic. A new explosive schematic materialized in his mind, all principles automatically recorded by the interface. Harlan reviewed the specifications, musing. High combustion poison gas delayed explosive, too generic. Let's call it Venomfire Burst Mine. Naming successful. You have acquired the self-created schematic. Venomfire Burst Mine. Once the schematic was interface validated, it became a skill, upgradable with experience, providing clear performance parameters. A template to streamline manufacturing. Production speed increased dramatically. Just as I thought. The self-creation feature is perfect for my situation. Immense potential to unlock. Harlan's eyes gleamed. Now, to produce a sufficient quantity of burst mines, nightfall, Harlan drove to a deserted area, setting up a series of fireworks, rigged for delayed launch. Then, he proceeded to a likely route Rose Armored might take, setting up his trap, deploying the jammer and venomfire burst mines. How did he determine it was a likely route? Well, you ever heard of the shortest distance between 2 points being a straight line? Of course, the enemy could deviate. But no loss if they did. Just no ambush this time, try again later. The EMP jammer was a cylindrical device with a base, the portable model Harlan constructed standing about a meter tall. With a 300-meter radius, it emitted high-frequency electromagnetic pulses, disrupting precision instruments and electronic components, targeting communication systems, electronic controls, radar, etc. Highly effective against vehicles, disrupting their electronic control system sensors, controllers rendering them immobile. While Harlan doubted Rose Armored's vehicles were EMP-hardened, he played it safe, setting the jammer's power output to maximum, unless the vehicles were completely shielded in EMP-resistant metal. Even a tiny gap would be vulnerable. The trade-off was immense energy consumption, a 2,000-credit high-capacity battery drained in 10 seconds. But that was acceptable. The jammer didn't need continuous EMP. A single burst was sufficient. After deploying the trap, he parked the buggy behind a dune, about 400 meters from the trap zone. He settled into a prone position, shouldering Red Falcon, waiting patiently, like a predator in ambush. Desert nights were frigid, cold wind whipping up sand. Harlan tightened his high-collared coat, donned thick leather gloves, preventing his hands from numbing, ensuring accuracy. Boom, in the designated area, a dozen fireworks erupted into the sky. Brilliant bursts against the night, visible for miles. Something's up. In Rose Armored's compound, a sentry spotted the distant fireworks, immediately alerting Leader King. King reacted instantly. Dorothy, take a squad to investigate. Watch out for other factions. If you're attacked, fire a flare. Dorothy nodded, selected 20 mercenaries. Quickly donned tactical gear, pockets crammed with magazines and grenades, and roared off in 4 desert buggies. At Gordon Mercenary Group's base, Leader Gordon also witnessed the fireworks. Send a patrol to investigate. Could be a firefight brewing. Bring the whole crew. A convoy of armed buggies streamed out of Gordon's base. Similar scenes played out at other faction outposts that had seen the distant fireworks. Rose-armored buggies sped across the dunes, tires churning sand, leaving long trails in their wake. Instructor Dorothy, think it's a sign of Felonia. A mercenary asked. Dorothy, her face brutal, her lips pressed tight, resembling a black tiger about to strike, snorted. HMPH, if Felonia was that easy to find. We wouldn't have wasted over 2 years here, probably some idiot pulling a stunt. Everyone on high alert, could be another ambush from Gordon's gang. Buzz, mid-sentence, a strange electrical hum filled the air. Dorothy's heightened senses registered a peculiar wave emanating from nearby. Simultaneously, the buggy's dashboards erupted in sparks, all 4 vehicles instantly losing control, veering wildly, colliding, engines sputtering and dying no matter how hard the drivers jammed on the gas. Ambush, Dorothy yelled, alarm bells screaming in her mind, scanning the desolate landscape. What had crippled their vehicles? An EMP. The mercenaries frantically scanned their surroundings. Seeing only sand under the moonlight, nothing amiss. The desert stretched vast and empty, the starlit sky endless. A chilling night wind swept across the dunes. Rose-armored mercenaries felt goosebumps prickle their arms, a suffocating dread, as if a giant hand had clamped around their throats. Bang! A mercenary was hurled backward by a massive impact. Slamming into the sand, lifeless, a gaping, bloody hole in her chest was gruesome evidence. Sniper, take cover behind the vehicles, Dorothy roared in fury and fear. Scrambling for cover, firing a flare into the sky, bathing the night in white light, rose-armored mercenaries felt a sliver of relief. Their compound was close. 15 minutes, reinforcements would arrive. From his dune perch, Harlan watched the flare arc skyward. A signal flare, expecting a cavalry charge. How quaint! Switching to a high-combustion magazine, he fired a single shot at the venom-fire burst mine emplacement. Where the bullet struck, flames erupted, igniting the buried mines. Boom! A deafening explosion ripped through the night, a surging wall of fire engulfing the area. Harlan's other mines detonated in a chain reaction. Flames engulfed the 4 buggies, laced with thick, noxious fumes. His interface flashed a torrent of notifications: enemies suffering continuous toxin and burn damage. Heimdall rounds, poison gas munitions, also known as Heimdall's Justice. Incorporating their principles into the venom-fire burst mine amplified its versatility. Coughs echoed through the inferno. Dorothy felt a wave of nausea and dizziness. Her ordinary mercenaries were faring far worse, collapsing, vomiting. Vision blurring, staying put meant certain death, either burned alive or poisoned. Damn these bastards, Dorothy, fighting back waves of nausea, roared. Charge! We take out the sniper or we all die. Chapter 094. Sos Rose armored mercenaries stumbled forward, lungs burning, bodies ravaged by toxins. Staggering into the path of fire, only Dorothy, with her martial artist physique, could barely resist the poison's effects, leading the desperate charge. Harlan remained calm, unflustered, switching to Shrike penetrator rounds, picking off the mercenaries one by one with precise, rhythmic shots. The Red Chinese letter S report echoed across the dunes, each shot finding its mark. Body armor was useless against the Shrike penetrator's piercing power. Enhanced by his skills, each shot delivered over 130 theoretical damage. These average mercenaries, level 5 to 8 with around 150 health points, were near death with a single hit. Bleeding, burning, poisoned, they wouldn't last long enough for a second shot. His kill efficiency was brutal. He deliberately left Dorothy for last, eliminating her support first, saving the strongest for a final, personal confrontation. As he dropped the last ordinary mercenary, Dorothy finally reached his position, raising her customized submachine gun, unleashing a furious hail of bullets. Harlan ducked, the bullets tearing into the sand dune, showering him in sand and grit. Dorothy sprinted, firing relentlessly, emptying her magazine. Closing the distance, a savage grin spread across her face. A sniper, caught in close combat by a martial artist, was as good as dead. Dorothy couldn't wait to crush Harlan's skull. Just as she had done dozens of times before, Tiger Hunt axe, Dorothy's elbow snapped out in a devastating horizontal strike, whistling through the air. Aimed at Harlan's head, she was certain this blow would splatter his brains. The brutal elbow strike met empty air. Harlan had shifted back 3 meters. Fluid as mercury, sliding shot, Harlan drew the twin Desert Eagles holstered at his lower back with lightning speed. Overdrive and rapid fire engaged. In a heartbeat, 7 or 8 Shrike penetrator rounds slammed into Dorothy's torso. Dorothy roared in pain, but her eyes glinted with grim satisfaction. She ripped a shotgun from her back, unleashing a devastating spray of buckshot at point-blank range, engulfing Harlan. Shotgun at this range, maximum damage. Whoever you are, you're finished, Dorothy's thought flashed through her mind, but the next instant she froze, stunned by the sight before her. Scales of armor materialized, rippling across Harlan's torso in a blink, encasing his upper body. The buckshot slammed into the armor, showering sparks, deflected harmlessly. His current tech allowed for half-body magnetic armor. A larger coverage area than before. Sucker, I got armor. In the next breath, Harlan emptied both Desert Eagle magazines into Dorothy's body. Martial artists at Parker's level could barely tank bullets. But Dorothy was nowhere close. She couldn't withstand the force of large-caliber rounds. She collapsed, blood gushing, her bloodshot eyes fixed on Harlan. Lips moving, as if trying to speak. Bang! Harlan put a bullet through her skull, ending her last breath. snipers being weak in close combat was common knowledge. Parker had thought so too, and it had gotten him killed. You have killed Dorothy LV, 25, plus 7,500 XP. In the early stages, snipers possessed superior ranged dominance. Excellent for grinding monsters, but only large guilds could afford to train them. Sniper gear was expensive. Even a basic sniper rifle cost tens of thousands of credits. And every sniper round was pricey, money downrange with every shot, and most snipers lacked Harlan's magnetic extension armor, easily overwhelmed in close quarters. Harlan searched Dorothy's body, noting modifications to her weapons. Rose armored likely had a skilled mechanic. Wiping out this squad had netted him over 10,000 XP. The venom fire burst mine's flames still raged, attracting attention. He retrieved the EMP jammer, climbed back into the buggy, and sped away. Not long after, a Gordon mercenary patrol arrived at the scene, recoiling in shock. Rose armored, who hit them as Gordon's mercenaries dismounted to investigate. King arrived with her own backup, spotting Gordon's vehicles at the scene of the carnage. Open fire, long-standing animosity between the factions flared. No chance for explanations. Shoot first, ask questions later. King didn't hesitate, ordering an attack. Gordon's mercenaries returned fire, triggering a furious firefight. Gunfire and explosions shattering the night. Soon, other factions, drawn by the noise, arrived. Seeing Rose armored and Gordon locked in combat, they saw an opportunity to third-party. Joining the fray, turning the scene into a chaotic free-for-all. The battle raged for hours, all factions taking losses, eventually breaking off, each retreating to lick their wounds. Some of the later arrivals had even forgotten why they'd joined the fight, just happy to jump into the melee. Rose armored recovered 20 bodies, most with a single sniper wound as the cause of death. Looks like it wasn't Gordon who ambushed Dorothy's squad. It was a sniper, Ghost Fox observed. King's face was grim, pondering who would target them. Rose armored's enemies were all in the Sommer Desert, battles usually head-on clashes. This lone sniper ambush reminded her of 2 years ago, when Chase Rhodes' family first put a bounty on their heads. Attracting a swarm of solo killers, another bounty hunter, King frowned. Rose armored hadn't been bothered by assassins for over a year. Had another fool forgotten the lessons of the past? Dorothy's death was brutal, close-range gunshot wounds. This sniper might possess some close-quarters combat skills. A petite woman in a grease-stained coat approached. I found tracks leading away from the ambush, southeast towards Farian Group's outpost. That's the closest base in that direction. Good work, Leah. Leah was Rose Armored's mechanic, responsible for weapons, vehicles, and base defenses. I recovered explosive fragments from the blast site, a premeditated trap. The mine casings are Farian Group materials. The sniper likely based at the Farian outpost. I've tried to reconstruct the mine design. It's unlike anything I've seen before, a new type of explosive. Gas-based, it seems. King's eyes narrowed. This assassin was proving troublesome, but she wasn't worried. She dialed an encrypted number, contacting their backer. Mr. Sestian, we've been targeted by an assassin. We lost a 20-person squad. A raspy, aged voice answered from the other end. I will send someone to handle it. Whenever assassins appeared, Rose Armored's backers dispatched professionals to deal with them. This was the reason why so many assassins had met their end in the Sommer Desert. Professionals who dealt with assassins were assassins themselves. Chapter 095, Reverse Psychology. A helicopter touched down on Rose Armored's compound helipad. 3 men disembarked, their faces impassive, radiating an aura that warned people away. They seemed almost identical, cut from the same cloth. Epsilon 3. Epsilon 5, Epsilon 9. Assassins trained in the same specialized camp. Situation report. Epsilon 3, the leader asked, cutting to the chase. King briefed them on the recent events. Epsilon 3's eyes narrowed. Enemy is a sniper. This ambush was a probe. His lure tactic indicates detailed intel on your operations. Your tracking points to the Farian group outpost, but Farian is untouchable. We can't engage him there. King asked, so what's your plan? The assassin's target is you. We use you as bait. Routine patrols as usual. He'll make a move. The three of us will lay in wait, intercept, and eliminate him. King immediately issued orders. Ghost Fox, you'll lead patrols for the next few days. Ghost Fox nodded in acknowledgement. Farian outpost. Harlan sat in his room, fingers absently stroking the stubble on his chin. A cloud of unease lingering. Rose Ahmed's people went down way too easily. Dorothy and her squad's performance struck him as odd. If that was Rose Ahmed's true strength, their bounty shouldn't remain unclaimed for so long. Han, the engineer's ingrained skepticism, kicked in. He sensed missing pieces, crucial intel he'd overlooked. He sought out Antonov for answers. Knocking on Antonov's office door, Harlan peeked inside. Antonov was seated behind his desk, buried in paperwork. Something else. Antonov asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. Harlan took a seat opposite him. I need more intel on Sommer Desert factions. Didn't I already give you everything? Their forces, territories, you have it all. I'm asking about what's not in the intel. Harlan raised an eyebrow. The underlying stuff, you know. Antonov lit a cigar. Chuckling, so you've sensed it. These armed groups are just pawns, backed by patrons funding the search for Falonia, unless you wipe out the leadership. They're endlessly replaceable. Gordon's backed by the Chase Rhodes family, your bounty issuer, by the way. Don't be surprised. Rose Ahmed's bounty is public knowledge. Harlan wasn't surprised. He nodded, thinking. If that was the case, completing the mission required eliminating every member of Rose Ahmed, no survivors. Crucially, taking down Leader King. Antonov puffed on his cigar, smoke curling upwards. Rose Ahmed's patrons are a political syndicate from Audrey. Funding political parties, rigging elections, secretly running mercenary and assassin training camps. Headquarters in West Continent. Limited influence here in South Continent. But still, not some small-time outfit. A spark ignited in Harlan's mind. A sudden realization. No wonder so many dark web assassins had failed. Rose Ahmed's backers were sending reinforcements. What exactly is Falonia? To attract so much attention, so many factions vying for it. Harlan had a hunch it was linked to his special reward, if reinforcements were inbound. He couldn't rush his next move. He'd considered two options, wait in ambush for Rose Ahmed to venture out, or lure them out of their compound. Both required Rose Ahmed to leave their base. Their reinforcements would likely anticipate this, using Rose Ahmed as bait to draw him out, then ambush him. What to do? Maybe I can turn this around. Harlan's eyes darted around, a plan forming. What if he set a trap, then deliberately played into their anticipated ambush, feigning a panicked retreat? Leading the enemy straight into his trap, a reverse ambush, that would require more firepower. Ghost Fox led her squad on their third patrol, aimlessly wandering the desert. Eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. She grew impatient, asking over comms, where is this assassin? Too scared to show his face. Epsilon 3's voice, cold and detached, crackled through the comms. Assassins are cautious. Last ambush was successful. He'll wait, observe your patterns. Another night. Harlan was becoming a nocturnal operator. He loaded his latest creations into the buggy, driving out of the outpost, heading out to set his reverse trap. As the buggy sped away from the Farian outpost, its headlights cutting through the darkness, it was also framed in a scope's crosshairs, 1 kilometer away. On a dune, Epsilon 9, draped in yellow camouflage, watched the buggy recede through his high-powered scope, a cold smile curling his lips. Target departed outpost late at night. Direction north. Suspect heading to set a trap. He's likely detected our presence, attempting reverse psychology, lure us into his ambush, knowing Harlan was holed up at Farian. Monitoring his movements was a given. This amateur is predictable, Epsilon 3 stated, dismissive. This mission would be simple. Everything was proceeding as planned. Dawn broke. Harlan, dust-covered and weary, returned to the outpost, seeking out Antonov. "You want me to drive for you?" Antonov looked genuinely bewildered. "Yeah, I need to shoot. Can't drive and shoot. Need you behind the wheel." "Hold on. Your mission is your business. Why should I help?" Antonov asked. Confused. "Come on, you're here on vacation, right? Can't just sit around. Let's go sightseeing, enjoy the great outdoors." Antonov gestured at the endless desert beyond the razor wire fence. "Sightseeing? Don't get hung up on appearances. Might see a mirage. Mountains, water, they're all out there if you believe. Pretty sure we're not exactly friends." Antonov deadpanned. "Giving you a chance to be." Harlan grinned. Antonov's lip twitched. "Has anyone ever told you you're incredibly thick-skinned?" Harlan patted his mask. "Yeah, 2 layers thick." What did he expect? Antonov, despite his bulk, radiated hidden lethality. Choosing him as a driver was simple logic. Antonov wasn't likely to get himself killed easily. A regular driver, stray bullet, mission compromised. Antonov considered it, then said, "If I'm involved in the mission by the rules, I get a cut. 5% of the bounty." "How's that?" "No good. Too little." Antonov shook his head. "Don't be ridiculous. You're just driving. 5% is generous. Drivers are always the first targets." "At least 20%. Harlan's eyes widened. "Are you robbing me? Isn't that what I'm doing right now?" Antonov's small eyes gleamed with shrewdness after prolonged haggling. Harlan finally caved, agreeing to a 200,000 credit advance payment to secure Antonov's assistance. Cash upfront was more reliable than a percentage of an uncertain bounty. It was now a hired driver situation, not a partnership. Paying that much for a driver for a single task was pure extravagance. Antonov squeezed his considerable mass into the driver's seat. Harlan settled into the back, handing over the coordinate radar, explaining his elaborate plan in detail. Antonov listened, a wide grin spreading across his face. "This is gonna be fun." Later that morning, under the blazing sun, distorting the desert air with heat haze, Ghost Fox's patrol, 2 buggies, scouted the dunes. "Vigilant, vehicle approaching," a mercenary shouted. In the distance, an armored buggy crested a dune, advancing parallel to Ghost Fox's patrol. Harlan and Antonov. "The assassin!" Ghost Fox exclaimed, a thrill of anticipation surging through her. Epsilon 3's voice, cold and laced with bloodlust, echoed through her comms. "The prey has walked into the trap."